overcoming ourselves is the work, and it's also the hardest thing to do because every cell in your body is going to fight to keep you who you are today, because that's what feels comfortable. That's what feels normal. That's what feels familiar. So going beyond that is a death to the old self. And the more you expand to, the more has to die. And I think some people don't want to let go of that version that feels comfortable. And it's really comfort. It's like a comfortable thing, even if you're struggling and suffering. It can be comfortable. Your nervous system will choose a familiar suffering every day over unfamiliar success.
Sophie, thanks so much for being on the Expect Performance podcast. Really, really excited to have you on. I've been making my way through a lot of your content and your website, and yeah, I think there's a lot of great stuff that you're putting out. But to maybe set the tone for the chat today, if you had to describe yourself, strip away the career, strip away all of the stuff that gets given to us by society, how would you describe who you are to somebody who you've just met?
Powerful question. I would say I am an irrepressible spirit who was born to shine her light.
Nice. That's so succinct. Speaking of light, you spoke about a heart and mind coherence. It's something that comes up on your website.
Correct, yeah.
Can you put that into perspective for me and for the listeners? What exactly is heart and mind coherence? Let's set the rules for the game.
A great way to look at it is shifting from just thinking to being. So dropping from living just in your head and your conscious, your analytical mind, and really dropping down into your body and living from your heart and from the deepest, realest place inside of you. And then bringing the brilliance of your mind with you. Heart and mind coherence is about operating from just a completely different state entirely that will open up far more synchronicity and flow and momentum and opportunity and fulfillment, rather than trying to white knuckle your way through life through just your analytical thinking mind, which I believe the majority of people are doing.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. That's such a good term, white knuckling, because there's, we fantasize about things like grit and hardest worker in the room and all of that sort of stuff. And that sure has its place to be hardworking. But sometimes I think people are working that white knuckling, as you call it, is almost in opposition to what they're feeling, right? They've decided that if I decide I'm going to work so hard and I'm going to pursue this thing because that's what people are always telling me, like it's going to be hard, it's going to require lots of work, and maybe the fulfillment and the coherence and the oneness and the completeness is on the other side of all of this hard work, and they white knuckle it through. But sometimes we could just be barking up the wrong tree because we're not connected, right? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said. Yes, getting connected comes first, and surrendering is not passive. It's an invitation to step into a greater level of trust and flow with life and the higher intelligence that's moving through all of us and has a design for all of us. Like the swim is in the fish, right? And the tree is in the acorn. And whatever you're here to do is in you, and it's in me, and it's in all of us. And if we can get out of our own way and move with that, connect with that, that's when things start to really just show up in a different way. And I'd say it's probably the hardest thing for a lot of people, and also was for myself included, to do, is to really come at it from a place of surrender, like radical trust and connection to spirit, and doing the work to get out of the mind and drop more into the body and get these things aligned and move from that place.
Yeah, well said. So you spoke about your being. Let's bring it into a real world context, or a sort of reality context of what you do in the day to day. So how would you describe what you do for a living to people listening to the show?
Yes. So I am a master coach, I'm a speaker, a hypnotherapist, a facilitator, and I help female leaders increase their capacity to hold more in their life. So more power, more visibility, more income, more clients, more impact in a way that's sustainable for their nervous systems without burning out or trying to white knuckle their way through. Most recently, I also was a results strategist for Tony Robbins. And so I was on his team working with him, demonstrating what it would be like for clients to work with a Tony Robbins coach. So I had the privilege of supporting clients globally and really understanding too through that experience how much this work is needed for people to really come home to themselves and to their body and move forward in an aligned way, because a lot of people out there are functioning from a place of survival and calling that ambition or leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a wild experience. I actually left the team on May 1st to be back fully in my work full time. And where I'm really feeling compelled to lean in is just more speaking. Like I really want to continue to just connect with other thought leaders like yourself and also speak to large groups and facilitate large groups. I've been doing
Nice.
this for
That's
about
awesome.
10 years. Yeah, thank you.
How many years?
Hitting a decade, which is crazy.
Nice. That is so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's happened along your journey? So we all have our own personal story. I have my reasons why I do what I do and the career that I have in fitness and then now in the podcast. If you look at your journey so far in retrospect, what has contributed to you deciding that this is the path that you should take?
My awakening, so to speak, started in 2014. And that's when I was at like my first rock bottom moment. I was definitely hyper anxious, high functioning anxiety, almost depression. I had an Adderall addiction. I was someone who like everything looked great on the inside, but internally I was just like screaming. And I found the world of self-development through two big catalysts. The first was the practice of yoga. I started to practice yoga consistently, and that started to create some space from the fear-based conditioning and the inner critic that I was really identified with. I fell in love with it so much that I went through my 200-hour YTT back in 2014. And also my brother Luke is one of my biggest expanders, and he took me to a Bob Proctor seminar in 2014 called The Invisible Side of Success. And I was like, how is this the first time I'm learning about the fact that we're conscious creators, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, paradigms, how to actually use our power to create the life that we want to experience. And so I just dove in, Clinton, and it was Neville Goddard, Napoleon Hill, Wayne Dyer, Joe Dispenza, like everything and anything that I could get my hands
Mm,
on, philosophy,
nice.
spirituality, psychology. So I started to apply that to my life and everything shifted. And shortly after, I started my coaching business in 2017. And then I went through another, I'd say, like breakdown initiation moment in 2022 after scaling my business to 3 million, helping thousands of clients all over the world. And that's what really brought me to like the nervous system and body centered practices and working with the mind body in a more holistic way rather than just from like the top down lens that I was really living in and that a lot of my teachings were born from at the time. And I believe that this is like the second awakening that refers to, of like just becoming more human, like really integrating our pain and like sitting with our shadows and sitting with parts of us that we've repressed. And that was the initiation that happened for me in 2022. I was stripped away from all of the performative parts and the perfectionist parts and really had to come face to face with like parts that I was just avoiding. Um and so yeah, now here we are.
Wow. Some of those books that you mentioned are some of my absolute favorites. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I've read that. I think I've read that 3 times.
Think and Grow Rich
Yeah, yeah.
book.
One of my all-time favorites. Power of Now. Definitely right up there. You read Power of Now?
Totally. Yep, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
I've just finished last year. I finished Joe Dispenza, um, Becoming Supernatural.
He is also a
Yeah.
great one. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's awesome too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love this. There's a book that I've recently finished, Untethered Soul. Have you read that one?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. So some
When
of the
he has he has the surrender experiment, I would suggest reading that too.
the surrender experiment. So what,
Yeah, the book.
something that he spoke about in his book, Untethered Soul, he spoke about the thorn in the side.
Mm,
And I think it was such a wonderful analogy. And it made me think of when you were telling me your story, it made me think of that analogy of we we do our best. We have this thorn in the side, right? And we do our best to try and protect that thorn. And then we end up building an entire life around protecting that. And the way that he described it was like you pad it up and then you change your whole life. So if it's on your left hand side, then you avoid walking next to things on your left hand side because you don't want to bump
mm,
it. Then you end up developing like a more hardcore version of a pad, which is maybe a bit more has a bit more covering. So then you can bump into stuff, but then it's still pretty sore. And then by the time you've 5 years down the line, you've got this massive contraption that you're quite stoked about, and you're going to sell to other people for the thorns in their sides. And you've built this whole life around this thorn, this pain,
yeah,
and without realizing that that is just like a severe bottleneck, and it's not something that you can outrun. It's something that you
no.
have to sit with. It's something that you have to identify and move through. And I thought that was such a wonderful analogy and something that stuck with me ever since I've read that book.
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly that part and I agree. Very profound. And I believe that's the last threshold for most people is like radical self acceptance of all of the places and parts and pieces that hurt way deep down. It's like you can't outrun your pain. And we're living in a world that really was never taught how to actually feel. We're disassociated. We're living from the neck up. So no wonder we're feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, stressed, disconnected, stuck in patterns of overthinking or anxiety because the return to the body and opening up to more love and joy and all of the beautiful things that we all want in our life means you also have to open up to the pain and open up to the uncomfortable feelings, the guilt, the shame, and learn how to actually be with those things without letting them take over, right? That's capacity. That's knowing how to tend to your body without becoming the thing or identifying with the thing. It's learning how to really feel it and process it all the way through. And I believe that's the most integral part. It's the last part. It's like radical self acceptance, passing that threshold of being with what's there and tending to it and loving it and moving from your sovereignty.
Let's start at the end then. So how would one person listening to this, how would they go about that radical acceptance? In your experience, you've walked the journey yourself. What what did you have to do, and what would you advise other people do to start to take the steps for radical acceptance?
Yeah, I would honestly take out a sheet of paper and I would go to a beautiful place in nature or a safe place where you feel really held in your home. And I would write out all of the parts that you feel like you have a hard time accepting about yourself or that are challenging or uncomfortable to face and look at. And a great simple practice, right, is I forgive myself for buying into the belief that this part of me is wrong, bad, unworthy, not enough. When the truth is, this part of me is normal, organic, healthy, natural, human. So it's just like a beautiful intro to looking at those things. But the deeper work, Clinton, is really like creating the space and the practices to let that part speak, to let that part inside of you have a voice to express because there's something that it's wanting you to embrace, to hear. It wants to be loved by you. Your parts don't want to run the show of your life. And so when you really create this space for them to express, they'll soften. Like those parts of you won't feel so unloved or abandoned.
Something that comes out quite often is what you resist persists, and I think that's exactly what you're hitting on there. trying to constantly fight these battles of repressing and constant repression, it doesn't make it go away. It just, that dragon under the proverbial rug just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until such time as it can't stay under the rug anymore, right?
Correct, yes, because we'll numb over it, we'll scroll over it, we'll do whatever to deny it, but really it's just wanting to be felt. And yes,
Mm,
it will continue to create these patterns because underneath every single pattern in our life is an unmet need or a part that hasn't been heard or an emotion. It's always some type of pain. And in
mm.
my experience, and especially, working on Tony's team most recently too, like the core, the crux for most people is like fear of not being enough, fear of not being loved. It's like it really comes down to those two core fears.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Hey, I had a guy on the show. One of the questions I asked him was, "What's a thought that you think to yourself more often than any other?"
Hmm.
And he was a bit taken aback by it.
Hmm.
So he turned it on to me, and I was like, I knew that bastard was going to do that. So then, of course, I had to answer. And mine was, am I enough? Am I good enough?
Totally.
That's, yeah, and that speaks exactly to, one of those pillars that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I would say that that's the crux of the human condition. That's our humanity. It's the parts that we all get to integrate. It's like not getting rid of it, but integrating it so that we can then lead from our essence, from our true nature, from our spirit. Anyone
What?
would
Okay.
be, I would say,
Mm.
lying if they didn't say they don't have flavors of that because and that's what happens when you try to come at life from your human, from your thinking mind, from trying to control it in order to be safe, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's that safety mechanism, 100%.
It's
Let's
safe
go
to
back
stay
to
safe.
the beginning. So, okay, we've covered, you said that was one of the last steps, right? That radical sort of self-acceptance. But let's take a person who has white knuckled it. That's going to be like the theme of our episode, the white knuckling. They're white knuckling right now. Yeah, they're grinding. Maybe they're most likely because they're grinding and they're working really hard and they're probably ambitious people listening to this. They are probably doing quite well in a material sense, but maybe they feel quite overwhelmed. They feel like it's not aligning with the vision that they had for themselves. They don't find it very fulfilling. What would be the first step for somebody who you might say is in that position to then start to make those changes necessary?
Yeah, I would say the very first step is to love the part of you that is white knuckling. Right? Because it's nothing like healing isn't about fixing anything. It's about facing. It's like facing the parts of you that are scared, so scared that they feel like they have to hold on for dear life in order to make anything happen and to survive. Right. So that person is clearly lumping control with survival. Like, I need to control in order to be safe. I need to control for everything to be okay. And so turning towards that part of you, recognizing it's a part. Are you familiar with parts work, Clinton? Probably.
Who?
Parts work, the modality.
No, no.
So we all have like self energy is like when we're in our confidence, we're clear, we have compassion. It's like when we're sovereign, self led. And then we all have protector parts. And then we have these exiled parts. And so someone who's like white knuckling, their protector is taking the steering wheel of their life. It's a fantastic modality. The book is No Bad Parts by the guy who
Hmm.
created this. I would definitely check that out.
No bad
Um,
parts. I'm writing this
no,
down. Yeah.
no bad
Hmm.
parts. And so I would first refer to this white knuckling as a part. Like, it is not you, right? People are not their behavior. And so the way that you shift that is by first recognizing, like, this is a part of me. It's not the whole of me. There is a version of me that doesn't feel like they need to grip on for dear life to make things happen. So I'd say starting to really just firstly like love that part of you.
Hmm.
A really beautiful mantra, like, I release the need to try to control the outcome. I'm learning to be at peace and not knowing. I'm choosing trust over control. And starting to slow the F down, like create some space. Like, this person's likely getting up, going on autopilot, doing things the way that they've always done in a very like intense way, I would look at where can you create some space for you to soften and just be, because that's necessary for you to unwind the pattern. It's like the knots in a rug, they have to be
Yes,
moved.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so interesting. First of all, you can swear on the show if you want. You don't have to say it. Yeah, you can go for it. It's fine. um, okay, so you align yourself with advising women, and you mentioned it many times on your website and on your page. And that, why have you decided to target specifically women? Is there something that has that speaks to you about that? Is yeah, why do they face a unique challenges, perhaps separate to men? Why have you decided to go that route?
Yeah, absolutely. So women are very different than men in the way that we're cyclical. We are not operating in a continuous hormonal reality. So there's ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys on a 28-day basis for women. I'm a woman, obviously, so I understand like the struggles intimately that we go through and the journey of like really coming home to ourselves and how hard that can be. And women, so many women are living from a place of just like burnout and overdrive. I would talk to incredibly successful elite women while I was working on Tony Robbins' team, and it's just like they would describe it like they felt like their brain broke at a certain point, like they were just like crawling through mud because they're just so pushing past overdrive, past their bodies, past any type of way of being that's actually sustainable. So I just have a big passion for it, Clinton, because I'm a woman. I have walked this path. We are not like men. And so many women are trying to just like push, strive, achieve, placing all of their joy, happiness, success in the outcome without sourcing it from here. But I also love men too,
Yeah,
and honestly, I could
but
see myself working with men in the future.
is it? Oh, nice. Yeah, well, I mean, based on the stuff that you're putting out there, I mean, there's a lot that I personally resonated with, and that crawling through the mud and that sort of thing. I've certainly been there as well, where just feels like it feels like my brain's buffering. You get on that little
Yeah.
Netflix wheel and you want it to go faster and you want to watch the show and you want to see the movies play out in front of you, but it's just like buffer, 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 buffer. And so, I
Mm,
mean, I've been there. I know how that feels. And to be honest, I'm right slap bang in the middle of level 2 burnout. So I was
are
there
you?
like recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that. I get what it's like. So I've had like heavy brain fog for probably like we're close on 10 months now. We've got a toddler too. So let me prefix what I'm about to say with that. So yeah, you don't sleep well for 2 years. It's going to affect some stuff.
Of
But,
course.
but parking that to one side, definitely definitely didn't feel my normal self. And for me to function and to be coherent and to speak to people on the show and then to speak to people in the gym for 12 hours a day, I was like, sometimes I just feel like my brain just switched off and like I wouldn't know what to say and I'd like lose my train of thought. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I wanted to go do some bloods because I thought there's something that's just not right for me. And yeah, we did a whole bunch of bloods and my vitamin D was low and then my cortisol was a bit out of whack. So there was that. Those were the two main things. Everything else was great. But vitamin D from being inside all the time and then my cortisol was too low actually. So
Wow.
yeah. So it's not like stress related. It's just like where you like constantly on that like high functioning, like, ready to defend yourself kind of mode. It's like that depleted, no energy, burnout,
Yeah.
like the troughs are low, it's that sort of thing. So yeah, I fully get I fully get where you're coming from and where those ladies are coming from that you mentioned, because it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite hard to plot your way out when all of that's happening around you, and even the smallest thing feels so overwhelming that that was the thing that like used to stand out to me was like uh, deciding what we're going to do for dinner tonight or what are we going to do tomorrow morning. It's a Saturday morning. That became something all of a sudden that was this like quite like a mentally taxing thing to try and figure out because it was
Mm.
just there was just nothing. There was no space left, zero. And to be able to step back from that and try to figure out, okay, how are we going to plot our way out of this is something that you have to do, I would say, very consciously and very intentionally. It's not going to happen by accident. And
No,
that's what I've learned so far. And that's what I would say to people who are probably there now, but haven't done anything. Like, it's not going to go away. That I can tell you. I can promise you 100% is not going away until you make
it's not
changes.
good until you make changes. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's powerful for people to hear that they're not alone in that. And I understand that too, because when I went through my second awakening in 2022, I also was getting every single blood test. I had lost like 60% of my hair. I thought something was like really wrong with me. And my cortisol was actually through the roof. Like my hormones were insane because I was pushing so hard with my business to scale, to grow, to get to that next level. And then also there was other changes happening in my life, like for you having a kid, for me entering a relationship after being single for so long. Positive change can also be a stressor for our nervous system. And if we're in functional freeze for a prolonged period of time, our nervous system will take over. It's dorsal vagal shutdown. Like you will play dead. Your nervous system will say, you have no more gas in the tank. I'm knocking you on your butt. Like dinner is going to be hard for you to think about because there's just nothing left in you. And so that's also what happened to me in my experience, where I just like shut down. My body just shut down. Life forced me to shut down. And correct, it's going to take time, it's going to take space, and it's a redoing. It's not going to be the same things that you're doing right now. Like you can't expect to keep doing the same things and just move through it. Your nervous system will need tending and space. And then the hope is that you move forward with a knowing of how to honor your capacity and titrate and do it in a more sustainable way. And then, Clinton, tell me if you agree with this, but I feel like our bodies will start to speak to us. Like, for example, randomly, I'm on day 3 of no coffee. I can't tell you the last time that I haven't had coffee in 3 days. It's been years, but just, it just naturally, like, my body's like, you just need some less caffeine right now with where you're at. And it feels good. I feel like our bodies speak to us in these ways where just when you honor those little messages, it's beautiful. It's like your body's always wanting to guide you back to a place of equilibrium.
Mm. So I'm trying to think of a similar example in my life recently. Hasn't been so much the coffee because I try to do the green tea vibes when I was trying to figure out what's happening with my brain fog and that, and I think maybe like cortisol too high, cut the caffeine down, that sort of thing. So I was troubleshooting, tried to do the no coffee thing. It just didn't work for me. I think with the nature of my work, having to be up and ready and challenging people from 6 o'clock in the morning, I needed that like little that first kick. But what I will say changed is I used to consume a lot of content. I drive about 30 minutes to work and 30 minutes back.
Mm,
And I used to consume a lot of content, either podcasts or audiobooks.
yes,
And I moved away from that and started
yes,
to get back to music.
good.
Yeah. And that was not something that I did like consciously. That was me thinking, I actually want to just be in the space and then almost daydream and then let the music sort of take my thoughts where they go just for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
And then I would just go shuffle through songs. And then some days it would be like very sort of hyped up music. Like maybe I'd be listening to a lot of rap one morning, but then another morning I'd be listening to like Hans Zimmer, for example. And yeah, so it was very much vibe depending, but it was definitely something that I felt like I needed,
yeah.
and I still do that at the moment, to be honest. And I think that that's maybe an adjustment that I made of a similar
Huge.
sort of context, to try and sort of take the edge off a little.
Yes. Yeah, we live in it's an information overload. Our nervous systems were not meant to take in so much information all at once. It's crazy with social media and just how much is accessible. Like it's too much. We're drowning in information and starving for wisdom. And if you don't create those little pockets of space for you to just be in your own energy, hear yourself and connect with yourself, you're easily going to feel edgy or more stressed or more, oh, it's just too much. It's way too much. We become
Mm.
fragmented.
Yeah, fragmented. That's such a nice way of putting it, because there's little pieces of you all over the show, and
Hmm.
you're trying to access those different pieces as and when you need them, but they're not just readily available all the time waiting for you. So I think that's quite a good visual. Here's a question for you, an unpopular opinion that you might have that most people might not agree with you on.
I would say with this, there's a couple answers. The first is that um, I believe, especially in the self development space, a lot of people will talk about like raising your frequency and like being high vibe to get what you want. That's an opinion I also previously held. But I believe that's actually kind of a delusion now at this point. I believe it's about being able to feel anything and still move. Taking it back to what we were talking about earlier, it's like having the capacity to feel this full range and spectrum of human emotion and the parts that are challenging and uncomfortable. But when you treat those emotions with love and kindness, that's actually how you raise your frequency and vibration. So it's
Hmm.
not like positive, like feeling good all the time in order to attract, or like you have to be in this like frequency that doesn't feel fear. Fear and self trust can coexist.
I love that. That's something that I've wrestled with as well. And I'm sure this is a question that a lot of people will ponder who've gone down the law of attraction route, the quantum physics route. Yeah. And, okay, so this means I must meditate, and I must visualize, and I must raise my vibrations, and I must, um, enter the quantum field and all of those sorts of things. And if I do that, then everything's going to be great. But then life happens, right? Somebody pisses you off at work. Something unforeseen happens at home. And like, what are you going to do? Okay, no, I'm high vibes right now. I'm just not gonna, I'm
Hmm.
just gonna let that one go. I
Hmm.
just, it just seems like a bit out of touch with reality. Whereas I think the way that you've described it is giving yourself the permission to feel the emotions that you're feeling in that moment, which is kind of very meditative, right? Like meditation is not it's not thinking the negative thoughts. It's letting them pass you by, and not ruminating on them. People use the analogies of the clouds, your thoughts being clouds in the sky or cars on the highway. And anxiety would be like if you see a negative thought, which is a car on the highway, and then you just latch onto the side mirror and then off you go at 100 miles an hour with that thought,
For
versus
sure.
meditation being able to let the cars pass you by. So feeling those negative emotions and then sitting with them, but then letting them pass when they're ready to pass, I think is far more suitable advice, especially in a modern context.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I've shifted because the teachings before were different. And I I used to say fear, you're either in fear or you're in faith, but you can't be in both at the same time. And now I really believe that fear and self-trust can coexist. So there's can be a part of us that feels afraid, but we're still leading from self, from our sovereignty, and we're not taken down by our emotions. We don't become them. We don't attach to the thoughts. We're still just guiding and moving in a particular direction without deriving our sense of self from it.
Hmm. What happened that made you come to that realization that they can be held at the same time?
I would say my second breakdown. had a journey, Clinton, with entrepreneurship, with my business, where everything through my conviction and passion for the work and embodiment of the work, it just like worked and everything worked. And then my burnout uh, brought me to just more humility and more understanding of the human experience and learning how to be with the uncomfortable rather than just bypass it. I was managing before, so there was a lot of like control. I'm a very high, I don't know if you're familiar with DISC, but I'm a very high ID. I'm a challenger on the Enneagram. Like I have a lot of that like fire,
Mm-hmm.
do control just naturally in my nature. Uh, and so just coming home to just the truth that like we all have uncomfortable feelings and emotions and parts and just more human.
Yeah. I've started to think a lot about blockages and and where are the blockages in our lives. And something that spurred this on was a conversation I had with a client of mine who is finishing her a PhD, and she underwent a major career transformation in the sense that she was unhappy in her work, even though she'd been very successful in her job with the company that she was at, and she decided that she was going to resign, and she just left, and and gave up a lot materially and financially to do that. It was a tremendously courageous move, and subsequently she would never go back. So she's been vindicated by this decision, but that's left her with studies that have been outstanding, etc., etc., and she has to finish her PhD, and she was kicking the can down the road on finishing this up, and we were chatting about it because we chat a lot about lifestyle and that in the gym. So because there's factors outside of the gym that impact on your ability to perform in the gym. It's not everything's in its own little separate box. And we were trying to get to the bottom of why she's kicking the can down the road. And I said to her, there sounds like there's a blockage here, like something that you're not addressing that's causing you to procrastinate, because she's also like a doer. And to cut a long story short, it was very much it was an education company, and all her colleagues were very well read. They were professors. They were very well educated, esteemed professionals, and she had come from a different background, not from education. And all the whilst growing up in this company, she was always been made to feel like she didn't deserve a seat at the table because she didn't come from the same academic background as the others. And as a result, standing in front of a board and presenting her PhD was something that was incredibly unnerving for her. And when we got through that blockage, then all of a sudden everything kind of opened up, because it was there in plain sight, and like you outlined earlier with the page of paper, it was now in plain sight, and now we could take action and
Yes.
realize and call it out for what it was. That was just bullshit. Those people don't know what they're talking about. You wouldn't end up where you are today if you weren't very intelligent and very good at what you do. And
Yes.
they don't have, their opinion does not matter in this
Mm-hmm.
instance. You've got all this evidence to suggest the contrary, but it requires a huge degree of self-awareness and willingness to do the work. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the precursor for anything. The
Yeah.
gym, transformations in one's life. There has to be a willingness to do the dirty work and to perhaps go to those uncomfortable places, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. That was beautiful, Clinton. What a great journey that you guided her to. That's incredible. I'm so happy to hear that she got through that and saw it.
Mm,
And yes, I would say that. I would say that it's underneath every single pattern that's painful, that's keeping us small, that's keeping us blocked. There's always an unmet need or emotion. There's a part that's really fucking scared. And there's a part that like likes things how they are because it feels safe. It's the comfort zone. It's what's familiar. So going beyond that is death, right? Like literal death, metaphoric death to
mm,
that part. So it's going to fight like crazy to keep you in that place. And what's really interesting as you were sharing that is I believe underneath it all, right? It sounds like that was her story too. She felt like she wasn't enough to present in the board, right?
Mm.
There was a part of her that felt like I'm not enough. And the the antidote to that is doing the opposite of what the pattern or the part is telling you to do, right? Like if it's saying don't go to the gym, you go to the gym. Like you beat the
Yeah.
pattern by doing the opposite of
Action.
it. Action, action. And you train your mind, body, nervous system. Hey, there actually is no life or death threat here. Like I am safe. So that is a part of building capacity for sure and getting to where you want to go. Um, and then also the other part to this too is I believe for all of us with the safety piece, it's not putting our safety in something outside of us. Like it can't be externally sourced. You have to feel that in here. And what it will require for all of us to do is like be comfortable with the vulnerability that comes with that. And I believe that's what bumps up with the enough piece is like, do I feel safe enough to rest in my own heart without the walls, without the performance, without the masks, with and just trust that this is enough in all of its
Mm.
imperfectness.
Yeah.
Because the more
That's so true.
vulnerable we are, actually, the more powerful we become.
Mm. So you mentioned there, like adversity, and I think that's what involuntary adversity is inevitable, right? So we're all going to end up having to face some adversity in our lives. That's the archetypal hero's journey.
Yes.
The You can't be a hero unless you've had something to overcome, because that is the essence of what it means to be a hero. And I
Yes.
think that's why an example of voluntarily engaging in micro doses of adversity is a great way to immunize yourself against unexpected adversity. And that's where I think exercise is so crucial, because I mean, realistically, I feel like going to the gym less than half the time that I actually go. And
Mm-hmm.
it's my life. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody who doesn't like or doesn't live in a gym, I can imagine it must be way less than that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And engaging in this voluntary microdosing of adversity and then overcoming it on a repetitive basis
Mm-hmm.
immunizes you against these times when you have something that's unforeseen that gets thrown at you. Maybe you're being laid off. Maybe you're going through a breakup. Maybe your pet dies. I don't know. But immunizing yourself against those macro adversity outcomes is really a crucial part of self-development and self-improvement. And I think therein really lies the benefit of exercise. We can strip it away and be like, yeah, healthy, muscle, lean, toned, etc., etc. But from a mental standpoint, to engage in adversity on a voluntary level is crucial for self-development.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that having also those like exercise is so key for the autonomic nervous system. Like that is just such a pillar of your vitality and feeling good. But having that structures create freedom. Like if you really want more freedom in your life, having those things that are kind of boring and repetitive will help you become more steadfast within yourself so that you can manage any storm, so that you can come at life from the center rather than be thrown around by the winds.
Yes, yes, I love that. Freedom versus form. There has to be a prerequisite of a form to allow for a maximum exposure of freedom.
Yes, self responsibility too, like taking full responsibility comes with
Mm, yeah, I love that. I
which
love that.
some, some people would rather play victim to circumstance.
That's the easier route, isn't it? It's very easy
It could
because that game just never ends because there'll always be another thing to blame. Yeah, you're so right. There's something on your Instagram that I saw. It was beautiful. It said, "You're not blocked from receiving your dreams. You're addicted to the version of who you are today." And
mm,
I mean, yeah, see, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, that is on point, and that is going to resonate with a lot of people. And I really wanted you to maybe elaborate on that thought thread, because it was just something that really, really struck me on your page.
So, identity is the strongest force in the human psyche, and we will all do whatever to live in accordance to that. And we brainwash ourselves on a consistent daily basis with how we're thinking, how we're feeling, how we're behaving. And so that happens not just in our minds, but honestly in our bodies. Like we get a flood of chemicals throughout the day when we do certain things and take certain actions. So overcoming ourselves is the work. And it's also the hardest thing to do because every cell in your body is going to fight to keep you who you are today, because that's what feels comfortable. That's what feels normal. That's what feels familiar. So going beyond that is a death to the old self. And the more you expand too, the more has to die. And I think some people don't want to let go of that version that feels comfortable. And it's really comfort. It's like a comfortable thing, even if you're struggling and suffering. It can be comfortable. Your nervous system will choose a familiar suffering every day over unfamiliar success.
Yeah. Oh, nailed it. Yes, I love that. So where's the balance then? So I'm thinking, okay, based on what we've said, we've spoken about giving credence to the parts of you that form all of you, right? The good and the bad, in inverted commas, good and bad. And then now we're saying, okay, we need to evolve and we need to let parts of us die to then move forward and evolve into a new reality, a new identity, a new whatever. Where, how do we go about juggling those two, where we need to give credence to the parts of us that are maybe holding us back, but at the same time knowing that we are wanting to progress, move forward, be happier, more fulfilled, be more authentic? So
Yeah. Yeah, great question. Because I can see how that language is a little contradictory. And I'd say when I say like letting some of those parts die, it's like letting them soften, like the version of you who repressed her pain or her shadows or her emotions, the version of you that thought that in order to be a worthy, you always had to be productive or successful, the version of you that tied your worth with your success, like letting those parts soften, because those are the chokehold. It's like the thing that's not allowing you to move forward, just like we uncovered with your client.
mhm.
So there is nuance there. It is not black or white. It's about radical self-awareness, to your point, which is the hardest thing I think for most people, is like really to be able to see themselves objectively. I always like to say it's like taking a bird eye view and looking down at the character you're playing, and like really without any judgment or bias, like see all of the different ways in which you're currently performing as this character and version of you.
Mm,
And then giving yourself so much grace and compassion and love and kindness, but just ultimately knowing like there is the thing that's calling you is calling you back. Like there is a life path, something that wants to be born from you. And we have to give ourselves full permission to get out of our own way and actually take the steps forward to doing that thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, that's such a nice way to finish. We brought it full circle almost. If people want to look you up, if they want to follow you, which I seriously encourage that they do, where can they check you out on social media, websites, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So for your listeners, Clinton, I do have a really fun, like a morning guided hypnotic visualization. They can download that at www.sophierosekish.com/morning activation. And my name is SophieRoseKish. And then my Instagram handle is at Sophie Kish. And so that's just my first name and my last name. And I have a really fun, like 4-week mini container starting in July for the woman who wants to explore some of the parts work that we were talking about here and really wants to know who she is underneath the conditioning and integrating the shadows. It's just a little teaser of the coherence method, which is my signature method. And yeah, if
Very
anyone's
cool.
interested in that, they can reach out.
Awesome. I'll put the link in the show notes, everybody. So, Sophie, Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you from halfway across the world. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. And thank you so much for being on the show. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Clinton. Right back at you.
Cheers. Hey everyone, a huge amount of work and effort goes into producing this podcast, whether it's from the research going into the episode, whether it's finding the guests coming to the location or them being online, to producing the content, edited and putting it in a format that is conducive to your ears and your eyes. And it goes a really, really long way if you can just do me one thing in return for this free content: share it. Share it far and wide, and if you find an episode useful, send it to someone who might feel the same way. That's all. Thanks a million. See you next week.